The first stage of hearings of Ukraine's claim against Russia for committing a genocide in Ukraine took place at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Paradoxically, Ukraine has become the first state to be sued due to erroneous interpretation of the Convention on the Prevention of Genocide by another state, Russia. Putin sued Ukraine for what he calls a genocide against the Russian-speaking population. Can you imagine that? And uses that as one of the justifications for attacking Ukraine. Kyiv responded by immediately appealing to the International Court of Justice in The Hague already on the third day of full-scale invasion. Well, first, the Ukrainian side categorically states the obvious: there was no genocide on its territory, and President Vladimir Putin's reasons for invading Ukraine are all about lies, fake and wild imaginings that are quite typical for elderly dictators. Secondly, Kyiv is asking the High Court to establish that Russia has no legal grounds to take any measures on the territory of Ukraine whatsoever, also for any attempt of the punishment for alleged genocide. Thirdly, the Ukrainian side itself accuses the Russian Federation of planning acts of genocide in Ukraine and claims that Russia deliberately murdered representatives of Ukrainian nationality and inflicted serious injuries on them. In support of Ukraine, 32 more states joined the cause. Thus, paradoxically as it is, the UN International Court of Justice has become a place where official representatives of two warring countries are present in the same very room. Representative of the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry Anton Korynevich and representative of the Russian Foreign Minister Gennady Kuzmin are separated only by a 2-meter passage covered with a blue carpet with a yellow-blue pattern. So far, the hearings were not about the essence of the case as such, but about whether UN court could even consider such a situation. And at this stage, Russia was busy denying the accusations, of course. The representative of the Kremlin tried to prove that, from a legal point of view, the UN court does not have jurisdiction to consider Ukraine's claim. The first stage lasted almost 3 weeks and consisted of the reading of the arguments. Lawyers and international law experts have already called this case as a landmark. They say that Ukraine is trying to hold Russia accountable for starting the war, despite the absurd fact that the Russian Federation still has the right of veto in the UN Security Council. It is difficult to predict how long the trial may take. Moscow will obviously try to delay it in every possible way. The main consequence of this case should be the establishment of the fact that Russia violated the UN Convention on the Prevention of Genocide and acted as an aggressor state. And even if at the time of such a conclusion of the court Putin is still Russian president, and refuses to recognize the decision, this case will become an important element for future reparation payments to Ukrainians, experts say. So according to experts, one of the tasks of the ICS is to develop strategies to respond to new challenges and threats. Ukraine hopes that Putin will appear in court in The Hague again in the near future and will speak to the world from the bench for the accused Tsars. Ukraine is also requesting an arrest warrant for Alexander Lukashenko and for him to be recognized as an accomplice in Russia's crimes in Ukraine, in particular the criminal deportation of Ukrainian children. The European Parliament adopted the corresponding resolution on relations with Belarus in September at a plenary session. The document condemns Belarus' assistance to Russia. In particular, we're talking about the fact that Belarus helped Russia to transfer Ukrainian children through its territory to the so-called health camps, where they are subjected to forced Russification. The resolution states that more than 2,150 children were brought to Belarus. In addition, it says that the Belarusian authorities are participating in Russian promotion of hate speech, disinformation and propaganda, repeating Moscow's belligerent rhetoric. The EU Parliament assessed the actions of Lukashenko regime as likely to amount to a crime against humanity under the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. The European Parliament groundly believes that by making possible Russia's unjustified aggressive war against Ukraine, the Lukashenko regime has become an accomplice to the crimes committed by Russia, which provides for liability for the destruction and damage caused for Ukraine. Well, Putin already is indicted. And this warrant is for life. It can only be revoked when Putin is brought to trial and his case is tried and closed. The International Criminal Court issued this warrant on March 17th for the arrest of Putin and Maria Lvova-Belova, the Russian Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights. They are suspected of committing the war crime of illegal deportation and transfer of children from the occupied regions of Ukraine to the Russian Federation, which occurred after February 24, 2022. Due to the risk of being actually arrested, Putin did not visit the BRICS summit, which was held in South Africa, and the G20 summit in India just as well. A few months later, after the ICS issued an arrest warrant for Putin, Russia was forced to resort to react and responded to The Hague. The Russian Federation decided to put the ICC court judges and ICC on the list of wanted persons. The website of the Russian Ministry of the Internal Affairs has information about the head of the International Criminal Court, Pyotr Hofmansky, the first Vice President Luz del Carmen Ibanez Carranza, and Judge Bertram Schmidt. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russia website, all three are, I quote, wanted under an article of the Criminal Code, without any further details. Very Russian way, is it not? My question to artificial intelligence: what is the history of the Hague Court as such?
The Hague Court, officially known as the International Court of Justice, has a history rooted in the development of methods for the peaceful resolution of international disputes. Here's a brief overview of its history. Origins in the Hague Conferences. The idea for the creation of an international court to arbitrate international disputes first arose during the various conferences that produced the Hague Conventions in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These conferences aimed to establish rules for the conduct of warfare and promote international cooperation. Jurisdiction and role. The ICJ has a general jurisdiction and is open to states for resolving various types of disputes, including territorial, treaty, and human rights disputes. It plays a crucial role in promoting the rule of law and maintaining international peace and security. In summary, the history of the Hague Court, or the International Court of Justice, is closely tied to the pursuit of peaceful conflict resolution and the establishment of legal mechanisms to address international disputes, with its roots dating back to the early 20th century and its formal creation in 1945 under the UN Charter.